Happy Tuesday, everybody, and in this video, we're going to be talking about 5 players the Detroit Lions could look to trade for before the start of training camp here in a couple of weeks. We're going to go ahead and talk about trade targets on offense as well as trade targets on defense. We'll give the reasons why, because these names have been popping up the past month. They'll be familiar names that I'm sure that you've already heard. That's how this thing's going to go. Let's get this thing started. Before we get into the meat and bones of this video, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. The more subscribers we get, more chance that this video gets pushed out there, and that's what it's all about, growing the channel and having fun. Let's go ahead and start with offense first, and we're going to go with the player that I actually talked about the other day. That's why I'm putting him on here first, and that is Cooper Kupp, and having him being traded to the Detroit Lions. Cooper Kupp is legitimately a number 1 wide receiver, one of the best in all of football. If the Lions were to get him, this offense would be absolutely elite. Jared Goff and Kupp already have a connection, obviously, because Goff was in LA. Same with Kupp. But if you're to trade for this guy, you're talking about multiple high draft picks. Round 1, absolutely. Potentially even another round 1. I mean, yesterday they talked about a scenario of round 1, 2, 3s, and something else. But we're talking about one of the best players in all of football. He's got a massive salary, and the salary would impact the future of this football team and players whom the Lions did already draft, like a St. Brown, like Jonah Jackson, like a Penei Sewell. So that's something you got to be watching for when you make a trade. The Lions would be elite at wide receiver. Just the position there would be on a different level of nutso. Personally, when I think about this trade, I think that it seems to be extremely unlikely, and I don't think it's going to happen at all. I think that it is a situation where the Lions can go and just stay with the receivers that they got, or if they wanted to make a trade, it'd be for a player that is more of a depth player. That is my personal opinion. Folks, go ahead and subscribe to the channel right now. We're at 36,020 subscribers. I'd like to get 80 subscribers out of this bad boy. So that is 36,100. If you're watching this video now subscribed, it's really easy to do so. Just hit that subscribe button. Let's go ahead and talk about another player that the Detroit Lions could look to trade for, and that is wide receiver Corey Davis. It's a more realistic option here because Corey Davis, first off, is not loved right now in the Jets, and as the Jets went all on getting every single former Green Bay Packer, so when you're getting all these players, it's going to put people on the outside looking in. He is a ex-receiver. That is what he is, and that's what the Detroit Lions would probably be looking for, is one of those players that are ex-guys and who can be opposite of, say, like a Marvin Jones Jr. or a Jameson Williams and just go ahead and rip up the side for the Lions on that part of the offense. I don't think the Lions would trade for him because I'm fine with the depth at wide receiver. You've heard me talk about this endlessly. I don't want to keep repeating myself. I think a situation could rise if there is an injury that occurs before training camp. Maybe a player like a Marvin Jones Jr. or a Josh Reynolds were to get injured somehow, or even in training camp if that occurs, then the Lions could make a phone call to get a Corey Davis. That would make a ton of sense because it's not going to cost you much. We're talking about a late draft pick. His money's not a big deal. And that kind of fits the bill of the Detroit Lions. They're not generally one out there to go crazy besides the Goff-Stafford trade. And he's got big size, and that's something that the Lions don't have a lot of. More thick, not just tall, but more a physical piece to him. Is there some disadvantages and worries that you have to have when you trade for a Corey Davis? Absolutely. But I think if you're talking about a late round draft pick, it's not that big of a worry, and that's something that can at least help out the Lions in the long haul. So when I look upon any other part of the offense, I really don't believe the Detroit Lions would be trading for a tight end, be trading for a offensive lineman unless there is bad news regarding Big V and Graham Glasgow at right guard. So I don't see that happening. I don't see it trading for a quarterback. I think the offense is set. I think the offense is good to go. So the rest of this video is predominantly about the defense, and we're going to talk about that because that's something that they potentially could look to upgrade. But before we get into these three defensive players, name a player you would like the Detroit Lions to trade for. Any player. It may not be a name on my list. It could be anyone. Blow up the comment section with that. Let's go ahead and start with our first defensive player here. How about Chase Young? Now, he is definitely been mentioned as a player who is potentially could be dealt. A lot of articles, a lot of people are urging the Detroit Lions to contact the Commanders to potentially get Chase Young on this football team, and there's many reasons why it makes sense. When you look at Chase Young, he's cheap. He's still on his rookie deal. It's not going to cost you a lot. The Commanders did not pick his fifth-year option up, and it's going to be really nice for the Lions salary-wise. He does have an extremely high ceiling. The guy has potential. He can be one of the best disruptors if healthy, but that goes with injury concerns. He's not stayed healthy for the Washington Commanders. He has been injured for an extensive period of time. He has been, and that is a major concern. A 1-2 combination when it comes to Chase Young and Aiden Hutchinson seems absolutely ruthless and something us Lions fans would love to watch game in and game out. I think that would be sweet to see young players get in there and get it done. But remember, we don't know what the draft capital would be to trade for a Chase Young. I have asked extensively, Commanders fans. I've looked, and there is really no definitive answer one way or the other. It spans from a first-round pick to third-round pick and a player. We just don't know because it's just not out there yet. It really is not. And so that's something for, the Brad Holmes or us even just trying to figure it out as people who give you information online just don't really know. So I got a question for you. Would you trade for Chase Young? Y for yes and N for no. Or you could put Y for Young and N for no, just for no. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. The next player that I think the Detroit Lions potentially, and I think would be absolutely ridiculous to trade for, would be Quinnen Williams, the interior defensive tackle of the New York Jets. He is one of the best defensive tackles in all of football. He is young. He's a disruptor, and to me, he would make this defensive line complete, ruthless, and be ripping faces off of quarterbacks. He is a damn good player. And if the Lions were to make a splash move, that would be a splash move with a blockbuster written all over it. Why should the Lions look to potentially trade for a defensive tackle? We do lack depth at that position. We got players on there that some are rotation, some are who does make a difference, but you do need to be able to have other players around them. And there's question marks with some of the players. We look at the list here of the Lions' interior defensive line. Isaiah Buggs, we love him. I think he's a great rotation. I'm glad we resigned him. Christian Covington, can he live up to the bill? Can he come in here and help the Lions out more than we think? Corey Durden, he's just a camp body. Broderick Martin, the Lions traded up in the draft to get him in the third round. Will he make the difference you want to see. Aleem McNeil, we love Aleem McNeil. I think he's great, but he can't do it himself. And Levi Onwuzurike, let's be honest here, great chance he's not even going to be playing in the NFL, or at least for the Detroit Lions. He could be cut on an injury settlement. So to me, the defensive tackle position absolutely could be upgraded, and I think it would be really difficult to get a player of the caliber of Quinnen Williams, but you got to make a phone call and see. I know the Jets are trying to win, but make a phone call and see. Last player on my list is someone who I talked about yesterday, and that is Aaron Donald. Best defensive tackle in the NFL. He's been like that for a long time. He has had injuries. That's something that we must look at regarding a trade. The Lions and Rams always trade. They do. Obviously, Brad Holmes from that organization. You say there's no way they trade him. Report just came out today. The Rams tried trading Stafford to the Atlanta Falcons. Okay, so if that's the case, and that just came out today, that means they're probably in rebuild mode, willing to go ahead and get away some players. 1 year all-in deal because he could retire. So depending on the draft capital, this is a 1 year deal. This is a 1 year thing that is not going to be for the long haul, because it is what it is. The Lions can't afford it for a $13.5 million salary, and and the Lions got the money to get it done. And so when I look back at this, I think it would just depend what the cost is. I would love to have Aaron Donald on this defensive line. I don't know if you want to give up a first-round pick, though, because he could retire after this year, and we're so good at drafting, that is a gamble. I don't know about that, but he would be an upgrade, no doubt about it. I mean, for me to say he's not, that would be BSing you. Folks, we're dropping videos every single day, live on Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Going to be a fun show. Get ready for that. With that said, folks, adios.